well as being able to run equipment in the parade, because it was something I took pride in. You know, I ran the grader here for a long time, took a lot of pride in that, and being able to operate that in the parade is still something I value. So really just using my experiences with the town that I did care deeply about, and being able to give back to the community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, so for me, you know, it was, I guess part of it was going back and looking at my retirement plan. You know, as I was getting ready to retire 5-6 years ago, you know, I took a look at how I could get engaged with the community. You know, myself, I wanted to make sure I stayed active both physically and mentally as I got into retirement. And so starting 5 years ago, I got involved with the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. So I did that and continue to do that. Then that got me involved with working with and being a part of the budget committee. So I've been on the budget committee for the past 5 years as well. I was on the bond committee when we bonded the DPW building and helped the selectmen make some decisions financially in terms of how to proceed forward with deciding how many years to bond, the exact amount of money to bond, things like that. And then more recently, in the last couple of years, I'm just finishing my second year as a trustee of the trust fund. So all of those are current positions and roles that I handle within the community. And so those are really the experiences that I've gained that I really want to bring to, you know, what's motivating me is to take those experiences and bring them to a new role, and that is one of the selectmen. And then looking at my leadership skills as part of the private sector. So I spent my career obviously in the private sector and held many different leadership roles there, running organizations anywhere from 17 million to 175 million. And then when you take all of those and combine those experiences and that leadership is to help guide Wakefield through today's challenges while planning responsibly for the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
What do you believe is the most important quality in an effective select board leader?
But want me to lead again?
Sure, we'll go back.
All righty. So to me, I feel a real strong quality a select board member needs to have is integrity. You know, really standing your ground with your core values, listening carefully to the community and its needs, and following your moral compass when making decisions. Not every decision is going to be easy. A lot of them aren't. But keeping an open-minded approach to the issues and staying focused on what's best for the entire community. At the end of the day, the role requires fairness, honesty, and willingness to make tough decisions, always for the greater good.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the ability to listen and encourage public input, make fair, informed decisions based on investigating the facts, and weighing them carefully. You know, I think, you know, that's the hard part is, you know, you're gonna have lots of different viewpoints and opinions, and, you know, and you need to listen to them carefully and weigh them carefully. And it allows you to make decisions that protect both the taxpayers and the long-term future of our town.
So you've both lived here. Well, have you lived here all your life, Seth?
I have not. I grew up in Middleton, but I've been a resident in Wakefield for 7 years.
And Tom, you've been here for
So I've owned a house here for 25 plus, but became a full-time resident here 8 years ago.
8 years ago. So you're about the same amount of time in here. What do you
Mhm.
love about this town? And what do you hope never changes?
So one of the things I love about this town is the sense of camaraderie and community. You know, being out all hours of the day and night working for the town. I see a firsthand experience a lot of neighbors helping neighbors, whether it be after a bad winter storm, one of the microbursts we get in the summertime, just people being there for each other, whether it be the everyday needs or just being there to support their neighbor. This community has a great sense of community, you know, whether it be the town held events or, like I said, just being there for each other.
And what would you like never to change in this town?
That small town feel, you know, it's a good sized town, but it still is, it's home, you know, everyone is friendly. People get along great.
Yeah, we're fortunate to live in a town with incredible natural resources. Our lakes, forests, the villages, they're just not amenities, they're our identity. And good stewardship and responsible planning ensure that Wakefield remains the kind of place people are proud to call home. Preserving Wakefield's character while maintaining its essential services is not a contradiction. It's a responsibility of our leadership. But it's the character of our town where we all support each other and the businesses in the community, where people volunteer to help each other and our neighbors, a place where civility allows you to express an opinion without eroding that relationship. Because that discussion is going to happen, and today you're disagreeing, tomorrow you're agreeing, and you're going to see the person the next day at Level Lake Market.
Right.
And so it's that civility, I think, that you can agree and you can disagree, but at the end, we're all neighbors living in a wonderful community.
Thank you. So what does a successful term on the select board look like to you?
Well, to me, I feel like it looks like making a steady progress to our infrastructure, our everyday needs, while maintaining sustainable, well-managed growth, sticking to our master plan and making ethical and responsible decisions and ensuring we continue to deliver reliable, high-quality services to our residents. Success also means balancing today's needs with long-term planning, so community remains strong and affordable for the future.
So just as a follow-up to that, should our town allow short-term rentals? And what restrictions would you put on them if you did think that our town should allow them?
Short-term rentals are becoming more and more popular. I feel like after COVID, Wakefield kind of boomed in that aspect as far as a lot of people came to their camps and being able to work from home more readily. Nowadays, they decided to make it their home. So, but a lot of people are looking to now put those up to short-term rental. I do think they are a good source of income for the people that own these places, allows them to pay their taxes. They can cause issues with multiple residents. So really just working with the planning department and outlining, finding those issues and seeing the best way to go about, keeping those problems at a minimum.
Mhm. So I'm sorry, I gave you two completely different things. The one,
A
the
successful
question,
term on the select board.
right?
Yeah, so, financial stability without surprises, right? And here I'll turn to my experiences as part of the capital improvement planning committee. Right, so I look at it and say there should be nothing that comes forward to the taxpayers that's not on that plan. And I personally take it as, that's the goal of that CIP committee, is to make sure that doesn't happen. It's not perfect, right? Things change. It's a plan. The minute it's completed, things change. But I do feel that type of planning is important to having that financial stability, because it's important for our taxpayers, right? We don't want these huge hills and valleys and spikes to our taxes and our tax rate. And that comes about by planning properly and having that good financial stability. It's thoughtful, balanced growth. Growth should strengthen the community, not change its identity. It's strong working relationships. A successful term means fewer divisions and more constructive dialogue. Again, it's back to that. We can disagree on this, but we can find common ground on that. And that, we can all move forward even when we have those divisions, because that's really the heart of our community. It's progress on key long-term progress. Completion isn't the only measure. Sometimes it's just making that steady, constructive advancement and dialogue on some of these bigger, longer term projects. One of the biggest ones coming up is our wastewater treatment plant that needs to be constructed. And then it's maintaining public trust. Ultimately, the success means this: residents may not agree with every vote, but they believe that the decisions were made thoughtfully, transparently, and in the town's best interest. I always say the only person you agree with 100% of the time is yourself, right? So
Should our town allow short-term rentals?
So I own a short-term rental, right? So we have a short-term rental. We've rented it out for 20 years. I feel that we should. I think that they do a number of things for our community. They're a business revenue source. If those houses were sitting empty or vacant, you know, it would have an impact on the businesses that rely on our tourist part of our community. I think for a lot of people, it's not me, but I know obviously very engaged with the short-term rental community. You know, a large percentage of the rentals in our town are owned by, that are short-term rentals, are owned by people who use them themselves. So they bought this second home, and it was a stretch for them. And in order to afford to own it, and they need that income to make themselves whole. So, you know, they may live in Massachusetts, they may live in Nashua, they come here 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks a year, and rather than leave it empty, they're using it to bring in income so that they can afford it and to enjoy what we all enjoy every day as residents, which is, you know, we just have an absolutely beautiful spot. I mean, there's you know, weeks that go by where I don't take that deep breath, and then all of a sudden, you know, I look outside the window one day in the morning and go, this is just amazing. I mean, this is beautiful. I can't believe that I am lucky enough to live here.
So, what principles guide your budgeting decisions?
So the principles I guide my budgeting decision are balance and responsibility. It's important to carefully weigh out the wants versus the needs of the community. While keeping a close eye on the long term. Sorry, while keeping an eye on the long-term goals and financial impacts, like Tom just mentioned, you know, trying to keep those surprises to a minimum, make sure that we're keeping our capital reserves at a sustainable level, that if something does arise, we do have something to fall back onto. We can plan as much as we want, but Mother Nature will always throw us a curveball, as we've seen in this town twice. We've lost the bridge on Canal Road, you know. Unforeseen circumstances, nothing we could have really planned to you know, happen, but luckily we were able to overcome that when it did, by having some money and having a crafty group. But and knowing in timing, knowing when the project should be postponed for a later date, so we can build funds, build resources, and when a project needs to be pushed forward to try and avoid a higher cost in the future.
So I know when I first, I'll give you an opportunity
Yeah,
just
no
a second,
problem.
but I know when I first came to town, I went to town meeting and they were talking about some roads and some bridges that needed to be fixed, and that it would cost this amount of money, and that they were gonna save, and that it was gonna be years before this was gonna happen. And I said, I got up to the podium and I said, have you ever considered bonding? And they came up to my husband and said, you have to get your wife in order. We don't bond in this town.
Mm.
So how do you feel about bonding? I mean, is there anything that would come forward? And certainly the wastewater management or the wastewater treatment center is gonna have to be bonded. We're not gonna be able to afford that 100%.
Mm.
That we would bond.
Yeah.
That you would feel comfortable voting for.
Yeah, I would. I feel there are certain situations when bonding does make sense. When you're looking at these larger projects, the cost of things have gotten so inflated over the years that, you know, I believe the first project we bonded was the Public Works facility. I think that was really kind of the first one that at least that I can remember. But yeah, I feel it is a key tool that we need to be mindful of when needed, like the wastewater treatment facility. We're gonna have to stop the lagoons over there. The state's cracking down on us, and you know, we're one of a few left in the state, so they're looking to get rid of that. That's for the greater good too. You know, it really would improve groundwater and everything else. But when we look to build a new facility, I hope that we do look to build a facility that would be large enough to take in other waste, so that it would be another revenue generator for us. I think the only way that we can do that will be bonding.
So the original question was, what principles guide your budgeting decisions? But then, you know, the added bonding
Sure.
question.
Yeah, so I think as Seth made, you know, one of the, again, and gosh, when we have our our capital improvement planning committee meetings, every single meeting, we just pound this home. And that's having that financial discipline to differentiate between needs versus wants. And it sounds easy. But it's not, because what one person sees as a need, another sees as a want. I mean, you take the different perspective of, and I'm purely hypothetical, but if you went to our park and rec department director and you said, how important is it for us to buy a new police cruiser? And then you went to our police chief and you said, well, how important is it for us to buy to get a new playground? Right? And how do you see those, how they would describe a need versus a want? They have very different perspectives, and all the members of our community have different perspectives on those needs versus wants. And so it's very hard to do that. But that's really what comes about from listening to the community and helping to understand what they see as a need versus a want. We spent a lot of time recently with the trustees at the trust, which most people don't know what we do, but we invest our town's money. But we also make sure that the money that gets spent out of the capital reserves and the trust funds are spent in the manner that the voters intended. And that's kind of the key wording. And it's like that need versus want. I mean, that's such a easy word to say, but very hard to define. And so, we spent a lot of time researching that in order to make a decision as to whether a particular purchase by the town met that definition of what is a voter intended for that money to be spent. And so it's very hard sometimes. But guiding sort of the principles of budgeting for me, I think it really comes down to, oftentimes people look at the physical part of what we spend money on, but it's really the people that we spend money on. Over 60% of our town budget goes to our employees and their wages. And I think it's very important for us to make sure that our employees are paid a competitive wage so that we can keep them, and so that we can have that history of making sure that things work smoothly. But I think just as important, if not more important, is making sure that we keep our head count in check. One of the big eye openers for me as I got involved with the budget committee is, unlike the private sector where you can take somebody's salary and then you say, well, how much is that employee going to cost me? And you add roughly 25% to that salary and say, okay, here's how much it's going to cost us. That's not the case in the public sector. In the public sector, you take that salary and you pretty much take 50% of that salary and add. So it's a big number. So when you talk about hiring somebody for $30 an hour, you're really hiring somebody for $45 an hour. And so that head count really is important to make sure we don't allow the government, our town government, to grow unnecessarily. So for me, that's one of the keys in the budgeting process.
Thank you.
And one of my principles.
How do you feel about bonding?
So I hate when the town borrows money. Absolutely hate it. I'm a big believer in our capital reserves, setting a little bit aside so that we don't have to borrow money to spend. There are exceptions to that when you get into multi-million-dollar projects. That simply is just doesn't make sense. So when you talk about the new DPW building, or what we're talking about with the wastewater treatment facility, that is going to have to be bonded. You're talking about a project that, depending on state grants, federal grants, and other things that might be available to us for that project. And as Seth mentioned, looking at it as a regional wastewater treatment facility will open up the town to opportunities for more grants. It opens up more doors for us than if it was just our own. But even with that said and done, if we got half of it paid for through grants, that means you're still going to need $3 million, $4 million, and that's going to have to be bonded. There's no way around it. So I think the last part of that I'll just mention, because we're talking about the wastewater treatment plant, is that I would do everything that I could in my power as a selectman to make sure that that bond is within the water department budget and not within the town budget, which means that if it's in the wastewater treatment, may have said water, I meant the wastewater treatment, the sewer department budget. If it stays within the sewer department, the users pay for that bond. If it goes into the town budget, it means that every single person in this community is paying for that wastewater treatment plant.
And while everybody, you know, the people who are the users are the ones that are gonna benefit most because they're using it, doesn't the town also benefit because it's a resource, a revenue resource? And so shouldn't everyone be responsible for that, not just those users?
Yep, so those users do, you do pay for it. You pay for it and what's referred to as a tipping fee.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying that you were saying that only the only people that should be paying for it are the users of it, not the whole town. It shouldn't be in the town budget.
Right,
But I'm saying, doesn't the whole town benefit from it? Because there will be a revenue source if we have more than one community coming and we are processing their waste as well. So it's a revenue source for the town. So shouldn't the town, the whole town pay for it? Shouldn't it be part of that budget?
no,
Simply put.
it shouldn't. Again, so if you're not hooked up to the system, when you have your septic system pumped out, you're paying for the system. So that's how you pay for it. So you're really talking about three revenue sources. So first off, the sewer department is run as a net neutral, right? So what it costs to run it and what you pay into it should be zero. You don't make money, you don't lose money, right? It should net out. So you're gonna get revenue from three sources. You're gonna get revenue from people who are hooked up to the system. You're gonna get revenue from people in the town who have their septic systems pumped out, and you are paying for it when you have your septic pumped out. And then the third revenue source would be if it becomes a regional facility, which I think is a great idea. Then you have haulers from other communities coming to our treatment plant and paying to use our facility for their waste. So you're getting revenue from three sources, and I think that's how it should be paid for. I don't think it should be paid for just blanketly charging every property owner in town as part of the bond.
Okay, thank you.
Did you wanna comment on that, or?
Yeah, I guess I differ a little bit. I feel that spreading some of the cost out amongst the town would be better. And the reason I say that is it is a resource, but it is also a resource at that point that would be open to other members of the community. I personally own a camper and we go camping a lot, as many other people do. And if you camp somewhere that's not at a campground, if you go somewhere else that doesn't have hookups, you have to then find somewhere to dump your waste. So a facility like that would be able to charge anybody that comes in there and dumps waste. They'd be able to take waste from not just haulers and not just off our own system. It would be a resource that's open to everyone in the town. A way personally, I feel that you could offset some of your ask to the town is once you're underway, once the place is bringing in revenue, is kind of separate what comes off of the haulers in the system and set some of that aside in a revolving fund. That way, those funds that come in off of the outside haulers can be then used to pay for some of the facility, kind of helping you keep what you ask the town for lower.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kind of going back to your comments on salary and new hires. When the town is considering a new investment, such as a new hire or new equipment, how do you determine it's worth the expense?
When evaluating investment, whether it be new equipment or a new hire, I think it starts with listening to the needs of the community and the employees themselves. Understanding the impact that the service we provide, evaluating the impact on the services we provide, whether we're gonna have the staffing to handle an additional load. As Tom said, when you're looking to add someone else, it's often higher than it seems by the time you get done with retirement benefits, all that good stuff. So really weighing that out to see if it's something that we need to take on in-house or something that maybe we can look to an outside contractor to provide that service for us. As far as like with new equipment, again, just weighing out the cost of what's it going to cost us to own our own, operate our own, or what's it going to cost us to hire this service out. A good point to that would be like the roll-off truck when the town decided we were going to start hauling our own waste. That was a great opportunity. We jumped on, we got a truck for a reasonable price, and right now it's saving us a lot of money by not having Waste Management haul our waste. And that also gave us the options to bring our recyclables to other locations, and we can kind of move them around to whoever's paying the most. So it was a good move, weighing that out as far as what's company X going to charge us to do this, or what is it going to cost us to do it ourselves, and do we have the capacity to do it?
Yeah, so there's the quantitative part of it, right? It's the analysis of looking at it and crunching the numbers. It's creating the spreadsheets, looking out at the data, and it's telling you how much is it gonna cost, how much am I gonna save? What is it, what's that sort of bottom line look like? And then looking at all the alternatives. Depending on the project and the size of the project, do you contract it out? Do you bond it? It all depends on the project and the size of it, but it's looking at all those different alternatives to say, what is the best alternative for this investment? And then does it make sense quantitatively? Then there's the quantitative part of it, which is looking at it and saying, the need versus want, right? The subjective part of it. So there's the numbers part of it. There's crunching all that data and saying which is the best way to go. But then there's also the part of it that is weighing that need versus want. And all that comes into play when you're looking at an investment.
Thank you. So, how do you approach representing multiple generations and diverse perspectives?
I approach representing multiple generations and diverse viewpoints with an open, unbiased mindset. I've in my time working with this community, I've run into all different walks of life here. It's important to listen to all perspectives and gather the facts and make decisions that consider the needs of everyone and the community, from longtime residents to newcomers across all age groups. My goal is to ensure that every voice in Wakefield is heard and respected when decisions are made. And that could mean changing your approach in how you talk to people. People learn and communicate on different levels, and you need to be able to adapt to who you're dealing with.
Yeah, so for me, it's really about engaging with the community and listening. When I retired 3 years ago, so first off, I can't sit still. I mean, I have to have every minute of every day busy doing something, and that doesn't mean sitting counts. And so I'm very involved with volunteer work, and that continues to put me in front of many different people in our community. Everything from delivering Meals on Wheels, where I'm a alternate driver for the Lions Club, selling Christmas trees at the farm stand, stacking wood at a neighbor's house, or community members who need help cleaning up their yards after the winter. Being on the Pride Day committee, the 250th anniversary committee, the East Wakefield Fall Festival committee. All of these different groups all are interacting, and they're all different, and you're listening to all of the people who are all so different. I was able, at another level, we working as part of the Friends of Wakefield Park and Rec, which is a 501c3 that I created with some other folks. We were able to go out and get grant funding for the pavilion and playground at the ball fields. Cost nothing to the taxpayers, and today that building and area is run free from any taxpayer costs, funded through that group. But as part of that, I was the person who wrote the grant. So going to the State House, finding the right people to talk to, finding out what we needed to do to make the best application so that we could get that grant. So now you're interacting with a whole different level of people by going to Concord and working with them in order to benefit our community through getting that grant funding. My wife and I, we run the PRP store, which is a fundraiser for the Lake Association for Pine River Pond. And so we're meeting all the community members who come to our store, all as part of that fundraising. Hopefully I'm not surprising anybody here. So, so if your kids are listening, but I am also, I'm Santa with the Hazel McBride Nursery School. So I've done that for the last 3 or 4 years, taking on that from, I think Phil Twombly was the person who did it before me. I've been the science project judge at the Paul School. So, interacting with all those different groups, from people who are living on the lakes that are taxpayers but not residents, dealing with all the people in the community who are both through those different events in our community. And I'm not going to those events, I'm participating in them. So, volunteering isn't a spectator sport, right? Or at least I don't view it as a spectator sport. So I am all in on those activities. And I think that introduces me to just this wide range of people and generations and all the different viewpoints that they have. And it's what I really like and why I love our community, is all those different perspectives and viewpoints.
Thank you.
Mary and I would like to thank you very much for joining us today, and we'd like to now give you both the opportunity to share anything that you feel that hasn't been covered yet.
And to ask people for their vote.
Yeah, so thanks for having us. Again, I just decided that now would be a good time for me to step in, give back to my community. I told Tom when I met him up in the upstairs during deliberative session that I'm not running on a malicious campaign. I don't have an axe to grind. I don't think there's anything blatantly wrong that needs to be fixed. I just would like to give back to my community. I have experience within this community with its infrastructure and its people. I still work every day as a public works director in a neighboring town, so I deal with the planning boards, I deal with zoning boards, I deal with select boards, and I feel like I have some skills that I can bring to the table, and if given the chance, I'd like to show them.
So I'm not running to make headlines. I'm running to do the work, to listen carefully, to ask hard questions, to make thoughtful decisions, and to serve Wakefield with integrity. I feel I have the experience and the dedication, and I'm willing to and have the time to commit to make sure that I will be successful as a member of the select board in your eyes. And I'd be honored to earn your vote.
So thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Lions Club and the library love to do this every single year, where we bring the candidates into a roundtable discussion. I swear one of these days I'm buying a roundtable for this. And so we appreciate you coming. Please remember to vote on March 10th at Town Hall. Local elections affect us the most, so please make your voice heard. I ran for an office once and I tied, so if just one more person had come out and voted either way, we wouldn't have had a whole rigmarole. So your vote matters. Please come out, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Square table session next year.
Yeah.
Recording stopped.
No need to spend more money.
Okay. So people, okay, sounds good. So we didn't tell them.
Hey, how's it going?
I know it's not easy,
Must
but I
be
don't
good.
know process that.
So-
I did.
You see again. It's healthy. Pretty selfie. Yeah. Couple of bonds we had.
Oh, there he is. Yeah,
Denise.
I say, I saw him come in.
I have requested other, the meeting kind of use. Everything has that, if you're not wanting to.
Yes, we really
Haven't seen that technology yet.
You were here last year. We had it last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wasn't looking.
So good day and welcome to our round square table. We're
I
not,
have to.
oh,
Recording in progress.
good day and welcome to our round square table discussion with the school board candidates. We are pleased to have Ralph Fogg and Annie Gehring, the two candidates who are running for the one seat at the Wakefield School District. I'm Mary Wing Soares with the Lions Club.
I'm Amy Swanson with the Gafney Library. Thank you both for being here today. The purpose of today's gathering is to foster a thoughtful conversation. Mary and I will guide the conversation with a few questions, but we encourage you to both to speak up and anytime to clarify or expand upon a question or a conversation at any point. And to begin, can you just explain what motivated you to personally run for the school board at this time of your life?
Ladies first.
Okay. Okay, hi, I'm Annie Gehring. I'm running for the school board because I care deeply about our local school and the role it plays in our community. Our children are our future, and our town's future depends on them being well educated. I have lived in Wakefield for over 40 years and raised 3 kids here, and they all went to Paul School. I have over 35 years in education, and when I retired, I worked part-time at the Paul School for 3 years. I am aware of the needs of the school district and look forward to working with the board to make a difference. Like many rural districts in New Hampshire, we're facing real challenges: staff turnover, insurance costs, concerns about academic performance. And these issues don't have simple or quick solutions. They require steady leadership, thoughtful planning, and a willingness to listen. I believe strong schools start with strong foundations in early literacy and math, supported teachers, responsible budgeting, and clear communication.
Thank you.
I believe Annie's hitting the nail on the head pretty much. I myself am running because I do love the town, and I do believe that the kids are our town in the future. And without a proper education, as Annie has stated, we're kind of floating against the tide. I graduated from Paul School 51 years ago, and in the last 3 decades, I've seen some changes that haven't helped the academic achievement levels at the school, and most of it stems from bullying, basically. And if I could do anything at all to help end the bullying, it's a never-ending task. I understand that, but it's one of the worst things that happens in many towns. We're not the only town that deals, or the only school district that deals with it. But I'd like to have a hand in bringing that to a closure. I do believe that quite often kids get caught up in things outside of their immediate realm, and unfortunately the adults that they're watching escalate those feelings beyond their understanding. So it's a breakdown of a moral compass at times, and I think there's a better way of educating our kids, and we could do it not swiftly, but we could do it earnestly. So that's why I'm running.
Thank you. So what role, if any, should the school board member have with the everyday operations of the school, do you believe?
Sure. I think the school board member does not belong in the day-to-day operations of the school. I think the school board is a governing body. They have clear roles, which include making policy, working on the budget or approving the budget, hiring and evaluating the superintendent, and focusing on the district goals. I think when school board members get involved in the data operations, it becomes confusing. It's the superintendent who is managing the district. The principals are managing the school, and the school board is overseeing the superintendent, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the things that the school board does do, beyond what Annie just mentioned, is approving the curriculum. And the curriculum in Paul School and Wakefield School District is, misunderstood. Some years ago, we were the first district to, challenge Common Core. We voted that out of the district and we gave the, school staff and administration an opportunity to create a curriculum that could be embraced, by the entire state. I don't know how far along that's gotten, but it was an opportunity that I feel, has been squandered. And I would like to see, that get back on the table. I think it's very important that we have a curriculum that teaches our students the importance of their individualism. And I think, again, that's one of the things that would lead us to a happier school system, a happier town. And I think curriculum is one of the things that the school board does have oversight over.
Could I just respond?
Yes, absolutely.
So they are thinking that what happened was because we didn't take on the Common Core and we took on Massachusetts Common Core, whatever curriculum, it's actually hurt our scores. So they are now using the New Hampshire curriculum, sticking with New Hampshire curriculum, which is based on the Common Core, which in hopes will help our kids to be learning what is going to be on the test. I want to mention something else. As far as bullying, there is a policy at the school, and if any teacher or a parent, anyone reports bullying, it has to be within 24 hours acted upon, and there's steps they have to go through. So you should hope if there's a bullying issue that people are reporting it.
Yeah. So many policies do get waived, often, quite often. The Massachusetts, the only standard that Wakefield maintained through Massachusetts Common Core was the mathematics standards. Everything else was supposed to be based on our state constitution, which that gets shunned by many folks for whatever reason, I'm not sure, but I would consider that state constitution a key instrument in educating future generations here in New Hampshire.
Well, I did work there for 3 years, and we were told at that time to use the Massachusetts standards for everything. So just to let you know.
I sat on the school board and there was quite a bit of discussion, quite a bit of, so with the changes in administration, there was some confusion over what we kept and what we didn't. And it was the 2015 Massachusetts math standards that we kept. But, that was what, 10, 11
Right.
years ago. So
And I will agree that all the changeover has made it difficult for us.
absolutely.
Lots of changeover,
Yeah.
turnover.
We've had some submitted questions, in the, in terms of bullying. There has been a history, specifically, a history of bullying committee members on the board that you have served on. How will this translate to your participation on the school board?
Well, if that's saying that I've bullied other board members, that's how I would interpret that. I'm not sure about heated discussions, I think part of the problem in the greater society is the softness of discussion or debate. Some people cannot handle having open debate or heated discussion, and they interpret that as bullying. I would believe that if I felt like I was victimized, I could say that I've been bullied myself, but I think that that's kind of, a bad approach to solving conflict. You know, if you stand in your shoes and you believe in what your position is, and you have that heated discussion, it's not being bullied or bullying somebody. It's saying, this is what I believe, I'll listen to you, and, you know, it may get heated one way or the other, or both directions. I can't deny that I've had many heated discussions at the school board level.
Thank you. When presented with a conflict in a professional setting, whether it be a difference in opinion or otherwise, what would be your way of resolving the conflict? And this is for both of you. It's not just specific to anyone.
I think it's important to always be a good listener, first of all, and try to be open to listening to other people's viewpoints. Ask thoughtful questions that are going to help to better understand other people's viewpoints. And I think when you're on a board, you need to be open to, and you're not always going to kind of get what you want, but it is a board and it's a vote, majority vote. So
You're 20% of the whole. And, you know, listening is probably the most important part of it, because by listening, you have an opportunity to understand. And I believe, you know, it takes spokes on all sides of the wheel to make the wheel go around. You can't have a one-sided approach without considering the opposite side. It's just not a natural occurrence to think that a wheel can go around and go bump, bump every time it's 180 degrees later. So, listening is key, it's crucial. It leads to understanding.
Thank you both. What do you think of the proposal by the superintendent to add the sixth grade to the middle school and changing the middle school hours to 7:30 to 2:15?
Well, so Paul School in the Wakefield School District is pre-K through 8. And I don't know if there's a line, you know, I mean, I really didn't follow this situation too much. I don't see where there's a definite line or the crossing other than age, you know. I don't really understand the need for it because it is 9 grades pre-K through 8. So 6th grade is middle school. It always has been, you know, by the time you're in 6th grade, you're supposed to have a grasp on a lot of basic skills. I drive school bus in places where what they call the middle school is riding bus with high schoolers, and what they call elementary is pre-5th grade, I think. So changing the time, I'm not sure about the reasoning for that. I think that, you know, it's going to lead to a longer wait periods for the students. You know, I'm not sure if it's the best thing for the students, the parents. It may be for the staff. I don't think it would be for transportation. And transportation certainly is an issue now, as is. So creating a staggered entry at the school might create more difficulty for transportation.
okay, I did watch the school board meeting where this was discussed, and right off the bat, I had 3 questions. How is it going to affect the 6th grade academics? Will it cost more? And what are the parents, teachers, and staff? What are their thoughts on this? So Donna Magoon, the superintendent, she answered some of those questions. I wasn't there, I was watching from home, but so she did say, as far as busing, it wouldn't cost any more. So my understanding is they pay for the day, so somehow it's not going to cost any more for busing. She did talk about how 6th grade would transition keep it simple for them, so they would only have two teachers they would go to during the day, rotate through, whereas seventh and eighth grade rotates through four teachers. There'd probably be some sort of advisory, so I think she feels it would give them more independence, get them out of that mindset of elementary. But of course, she'd want to put in some supports there, so maybe an advisory in the morning, and then just two teachers they have to rotate to versus four. So we don't want to make things more difficult for them because we want them to improve their academics. But she did not talk about how it was going to improve their academics other than they would become more independent. So I think there's more questions to be answered. And so the school board did allow her to go forward with a forum to have parents to get more information out. So I think they're approaching it the right way. And I don't think it's a definite, they're looking into it. So was there anything else?
The time.
The time change too, which I think was a positive. So the time change for junior high would change to, so sixth grade and up, I think it was 7:30 to 2:30 along those lines, which would be a bonus because the kids who go to sports, the other middle schools get out earlier. So they leave school early to go for their sports competitions, teams, whatever. So now they would still have their educational seat time. They aren't losing time in the seat at school, education time. So there's a bonus there. Also, another good thing is K through 5 would not be on the bus with the older kids, so that influence wouldn't be there, which is kind of nice. Then somebody did say something about, well, what if an older sibling watches that younger one and then they get on the bus together? Well, the younger sibling could get on the bus with them and go to the morning program at the school. So, that she's thought through some of this stuff. I think there's some positives, but I haven't heard all of it. I don't really have a strong opinion. I don't have kids at the school, so I think it's important to listen to the others.
So are you guys aware of the specifics of the area agreement with Spalding? And how do you feel about changing it?
Pretty aware of it. I have been to a number of meetings with the Rochester School District while I was sitting on the school board in the past. They're steadfast in their approach. They don't want to increase the percentage of the students going to other schools. Their operating budget is a fixed number, and the students that come from outside communities help them pay their budget. And if we decide to go in a different direction, as far as high school, secondary schools, we'll probably be paying a higher tuition, simply to meet their budgeting, their operational budget needs. We had an opportunity when Kingswood did their addition to create another option. But we kind of sat on our hands and Middleton beat us to the punch. They did their middle school over there in Middleton and got into a contract with Kingswood, where there was capacity that wasn't full. Middleton, once they decided to send their kids there, it filled that capacity. So Wakefield lost an opportunity. Rochester is firm in their demands. There should be some compromise somewhere. I thought that Newt would always be a good alternate high school, but I don't believe it's an accredited school. So that's one of the downfalls of going outside of Spalding. I graduated from Spalding and other than sports, I really I didn't see much of a difference between Spalding, Kingswood, Newt. I knew kids from all those different schools and we're all in the same idea that can't wait till summer's here, can't wait to graduate. So, I don't know if it's a great idea to force Rochester into the corner that it sounds like the Wakefield School Board wants to to do.
So Rob, you have mentioned that you were on the school board before. How many years ago were you on the school board?
I replaced a resigning member in 2012, and then so that was 1 year. I served a 3-year term after that. And then I was off and, so that was 13 through 14, 15, 16. Then I came back on in 19 and I was on until 22. So that
Okay.
was 2 separate 3-year terms and an additional year.
Thank you.
We're talking about
This
Spalding.
Spalding.
Yeah. Yes, I'm familiar with it. So basically, sorry, most of the kids, go to Spalding. We don't have a high school, so we pay to send our students to Spalding. I do know 10% of the total that go to Spalding can also go to Wolfboro, correct?
Yeah.
Kingswood. And what's happened is that's filled up, so
they can also
this
go to
coming
Brewster.
year,
They could also go to Brewster or, so 10% of the population could.
go somewhere else.
So,
Oh, okay. So anyway, what they want to do is form a committee, which I believe they've done, to look into if they could change that agreement a little bit and give families more options. I think it's smart to look into it. Whether anything will come of it, I don't know, but I think it's good to look into other options for families.
Thank you.
We have another question. What do you know about SEL, social and emotional learning, and its importance in a child's growth? More specifically, how can SEL help an individual/student not resort to bullying?
social emotional learning is something that might be a solution for the bullying problems. I think it could, as long as it's not creating a divisive approach. You know, a lot of kids get confused. So my youngest, by the time she was in 7th grade, she had some issues with staff suggesting that maybe she didn't. Uh, when she was expressing her concerns about bullying, they were saying that perhaps she needs to change her approach. SEL was not in Paul's school at that time. And she felt as though nobody was listening. So if SEL gives the students an idea that somebody's listening, I think that would be a positive thing. If SEL is a tool to divide further, then I wouldn't embrace it. I'm not aware of all the pluses or the minuses of SEL. I do think there's part of a curriculum that is being ignored. It's mandated by our state constitution. I think it would serve as a better alternative to SEL in our state constitution itself. Gives you all kinds of confidence that I think kids should have as they get out of 5th grade, 6th grade. By the time they're out of 8th grade, if they understood their own state constitution, their conscience and their ability to deal with social issues would be adjusted to a level where they could on their own, they could probably deal with the situations handed to them.
Okay. So I think social emotional learning is an important part of our schools now. I know at Paul's school, they do have a character education program. They have responsive classroom. They have calming corners to help kids regulate. So I do think it's an important piece. And it also develops working together. So you don't have to be best friends with everybody, but it helps kids to understand each other and learn about each other and be accepting of each other. So hopefully it would decrease any kind of bullying behavior. So I think it's important.
Thank you.
What opportunities or challenges do you see with open enrollment?
I think it's great to have any school district, listen to the parents. And if a parent understands their child and their needs, better than the school, but are denied an opportunity to choose the direction their student or their child can take, I don't think that serves either. You know, it doesn't serve the school, doesn't serve the student. If a child's unhappy in their environment, they're gonna act out. It's gonna create a problem for staff, problems for administration. Choice is always something that, you know, in whatever area we're talking about, choice is something that should not be denied to anybody for any reason.
Um, I think open enrollment, makes sense in a larger urban area where there's more schools to choose from. I think for our small town, it actually could, be more harmful than helpful. I don't think it's as easy of a choice as people think. I think, parents of means will, take advantage of it, would be able to take advantage of it more, than, kids that, wouldn't have the extra money, because let's say, there's a lot of things to it too. So let's say Carpenter in Wolfboro has 2 spots open in 3rd grade. And a 3rd grade parent of a 3rd grader here wants to put their child at Carpenter. Maybe they work in Wolfboro. So they have to apply for it. So first there has to be a space open, then you apply for it. Maybe they get 10 applications. So there's no guarantee your child's gonna get one of those 2 seats. If they do get it, 80% of the per pupil cost in our town, 80% goes to then Carpenter School or the district. And that would be about $16,000. Now, to educate a child at Carpenter School, it's $26,000. So there's $10,000 the parent needs to come, my understanding is the parent needs to come up with, as well as transport their child to Carpenter. So it's tricky, I think. And for a little school like ours, 1 or 2 kids go somewhere else, $32,000. You know, we could probably deal with that, but 10 kids go, that's 160,000. That's a big difference. So, quite honestly, I think it wouldn't affect us that badly, because I feel like we have a community school, the kids know each other, the parents know each other. They want their kids here with their neighbors. So I don't see that being a big deal, but we'll find out.
Where do you see the greatest opportunity for growth or improvement in our district is?
Where do I see the greatest opportunity for growth? I tell you, having worked at the school for 3 years, it is a fantastic school. The staff, the teachers, everyone is fantastic there. They work for the kids. They want to make sure the kids have a good day. So I think what I'd like to see is our town be more positive. We have a new superintendent, we have new principal, new assistant principal, all fantastic. Donna Magoon, the superintendent, is doing great things. She's doing a lot of changes, making a lot of changes, which I think can be hard at first, and it takes time. So I think we need to give her grace and time for that to work. So I think us being supportive, and the town being supportive, the parents, is important.
So I would agree with that. I think that the proficiency levels that we've seen recently published are a concern. And that might be because of competency-based education. I'm not sure about that. I would like to see the students do more environmentally, you know, outside, do more physical activity. You know, I'm an advocate of arts and there's opportunities lost every year throughout the seasons that the Parks and Rec pick up on, you know, and they support more than our school system does. And I'd kind of like to see our school system embrace a lot more opportunities for the kids to get outside, learn more about nature, learn more about, their town, you know, just, there's areas of town that kids don't even know exist, and, I think would be helpful to them and, you know, the greater community, if they're coming out of 8th grade and understand where the hiking trails are, where the spots to go canoeing or kayaking or skiing, cross-country skiing, whatever. I think there could be growth in those areas, but proficiencies as far as academic achievement, they need to be, increased somehow. I mean, we shouldn't be below 30% proficient in any area.
I would just like to respond, that yes, I think it's a great idea, to get kids out more, and that's an area where the community can get more involved and volunteer and help, add some of these great programs that would cost money if we had to hire people, but we can do this. We can, add this to our, repertoire of what we do with our kids, and adding the community into the, involvement. I'd also like to say, the state test is 1 day. 1 day, there's a lot of reasons why those scores could be low. And it's more than just a reading and a math test. It's very sophisticated. And you know, I'd like people to go for themselves onto the New Hampshire DOE website and look for the SAS practice test. Because see for yourself, take the 3rd grade test. It is sophisticated. It is not an easy test. And it's not just telling us whether a child can read and understand what they've read. There's a lot more involved. So I really highly recommend everybody do that. And then you'll see why the kids don't do that well.
Annie, isn't there, 2 opportunities for testing through the school system? Is it 3rd grade and 7th, or is it 8th grade, they do another test, something like that?
So there's the state assessment, which is 3rd grade through 8th grade at our school. And there is a New Hampshire, it's a science test they take at another time. That's only
7th grade, I believe.
7th and maybe 4th, maybe.
Okay.
There's some 2 grades. So,
I thought I had understood that there was a space in between, you know, one aptitude test and a final aptitude test.
No, there's only 1 state test a year. There might be other testing they do that is twice a year or more, but the state test is once a year, and it's compared to the last year's test. And there's a math one, and there's a reading, and there's a writing too. So there's 3 of those, and then the science.
Thank you.
The state cut special education funding, will that raise our taxes?
Do you have any idea?
This might have been.
Well, our special ed, was it special ed funding? Our funding comes from the federal government, I believe, but maybe some comes from the state too. So it certainly will affect, and we are required to pay for special ed needs. It's not something we can say, oh, let's not do that this year. So that's tricky.
Yeah, so what I had seen sitting on the school board was, we went from 18% of our student body were in needs. Then it was 20%, then it was 22, and now I think it's 1 out of 4 students, may have
25%.
Needs. So one of the increases in costs is the increase in needs, right? I don't know if there's an ability to discern what's really truly a need, or if what's meeting, one of the issues I had, I think 2019, 2020, was there was a service provider and there was a relationship with administration where the more people the service provider was bringing into the district, the more the taxpayers were paying. And we were told by the administrator that our numbers could decrease when in fact they were going the opposite direction. And the question was, you know, why are we getting this outside provider without asking for competitive bids? You know, from other service providers that can do each and everything this particular service provider is giving us or more. And the question was never really answered. So I have to wonder if there was, oversight issues, or if it was more of this is the only provider we care to offer our taxpayers' dollars to. It was concerning to me because I couldn't understand how the contract would read a certain way, the contract would get violated. And some of the violations would actually help the taxpayers in the Wakefield School District to recover costs, but it was whitewashed, it was shoved under the carpet and not addressed. And the need numbers of the students that were reportedly in need of services kept increasing. So I don't know if there's an easy fix to approaches like that, you know, but it seems like when there's opportunity to inflate the coffers, there's not a whole lot of resistance to that, which as a taxpayer, I'm concerned about.
I'm not quite familiar with that, but I know recently Carol Keenan, the head of student services, did mention that they changed a provider for Medicaid, because whoever did it before wasn't doing it right, so they now have fixed that problem, if that's the same problem.
I hope.
Yeah, so, and
It is encouraging to see, you know, that some of the changes that are going on in the Wakefield School District are positive and heading in a
I
positive
think Donna's
direction.
great.
I try not to follow it because it's, you know, the things that create anxiety for me is, you know, I mean, the less I follow, the less anxious I get.
So do you think it's appropriate then that you're wanting to jump into this if you haven't been following the whole changes that have been happening in the past 4 years or so?
Absolutely, because some of the changes that are necessary, that have been recognized in the past, have still not happened. You know, and I often listen to people in our town complain about things. And I ask them, well, get involved. Why don't you get involved? And I thought about not being involved anymore, you know, and there's a difference between being involved and being entangled. And I'm not going to be entangled, but to not be involved, you're not taking steps towards a remedy. You're taking a hands-off approach and letting it spiral out of a reasonable amount of control. So because I do care about the kids and the future of our town, I believe education is the only thing that's gonna save our town. By being hands-off or uncaring, I think that the kids in this town is worth my time to be involved.
So you think the town needs saving?
Do I think the town needs saving? I think there's a lot of areas in the town that have spiraled, without good reasoning. When you inflate costs in non-essential areas, it's just not what our government was designed to do. And not all of those increases in non-essential government, is bad, but it's, again, non-essential. So when you can understand that our government was not designed to take and take from the taxpayers, you know, without restraint, then
Are there any of those non-essential things in the school system?
well, the provider in the special ed area, although the services were needed, the numbers weren't.
Okay, but currently, and we're talking now.
Currently, because I haven't had my thumb on it, I'm sure I would learn fairly quick if I was sitting at the table.
Yeah, Can I just say something?
Absolutely.
I know Donna Magoon, the superintendent, really went through the budget line by line, had people decide, do we really need this? Do we really need that? She got the budget below the default budget.
Right.
But then some sort of bill came in from insurance that just threw it back up there. So she worked really hard at that. So I do feel very positive about the direction things are going right now. But that she did that, it took that. I mean, she's really on the ball. She's really,
Those are good steps, but when you mention insurance, you know, we had contract negotiations a few years back where there was a demand for a green plan, and the board was offering a yellow plan, or I called it a gold plan because it's a plan I would embrace. It would have been a savings, but it was rejected, if I remember right. They wanted to keep it at 82.5, 17.5%. So the taxpayers pay 82.5%. When I think the town was at 80-20, and we were trying to get the players at that point. So when an insurance bill comes in and it's inflated, you know, those proportions might not have been noticed as an inflation if they had been enacted. So there's areas where we can save and still provide some wonderful benefits. I don't think staffing really is hurt by the benefits the district offers. I think it's a pretty good deal.
well, and I think all schools in New Hampshire right now that go through school care are struggling. So there is an issue there that needs to be looked into. But yeah.
So, and I mean, we're wrapping up here in just a few minutes, but just to talk about the benefits that the teachers are getting. We know that the turnover has been tremendous in the past 10 years. And many of the reasons is because of the salary levels, and benefit packages are part of that salary level, but still the salary levels have been so low compared to others in our state that, you know, teachers are taken from us by other districts by better pay. So when you're concerned about, you know, the benefit package, it seems to me like our goal should be to retain the teachers that we have so that we have consistency within our school district. So how do we do that without, you know, how do we do that?
So I was involved with the 3-year contract that was signed back in 21 or 22. And it was a 3% increase on wages, and I think we did adjusting to the steps and the expectations there. The people that leave the school district that talk to me, it's not because of their wages or their benefits. It's because of the politics and the bullying. And that's the sad part of it. So if folks leaving say that to me, maybe it's just so they think I'd go out and start barking about it, maybe. But it is a problem when our wages and our benefits are competitive, and the higher ups, including the school board, are bullies. Yeah, that's the issue, I think.
Well, I worked at the school for 3 years and I didn't see any bullying. I didn't see any politics or anything like that. I just see a lot of really hardworking staff and teachers, and we lose some really good teachers to other districts that pay quite a bit more. It's not just a little bit, it's quite a bit more. We do have some dedicated people that have stayed, but we need to keep more, especially the new ones that they are training, and we just get them trained and then they go to another school district. So we keep having new teachers that we have to train again for 3 years, and it takes them 3 years to really get to be good teachers, and then they're gone again. So I think we need to find ways to keep our teachers, and I know everything's gone up, so prices for everything are expensive, and insurance is is out of whack. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be looked at. And it's not just our schools,
Oh, absolutely.
across the state.
Thank you
Okay,
both. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We'd like to give you both the opportunity to address the audience and share anything else that you feel hasn't been covered.
Go ahead.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and I do appreciate the folks that have shown up and their questions. The school district, I don't know if it's because of the numbers of the students being reduced and the staffing increased. There's some, again, I don't think folks would be coming to me and telling me the reasons they leave if it wasn't accurate. So it's about caring for everyone, everybody else. It's about an attitude of accepting everybody for who they are, what they're doing, what they're trying to do. Many people do work very hard over there. I've seen a lot of good teachers stay. I've seen good teachers leave. I've had teachers tell me that they were offered work over there, and as soon as they got there, they would leave because of the pecking order is what I hear quite often. So it's great that folks don't always experience that. I think it would be wonderful or even better if nobody had to experience that. That's what I'd work towards.
Okay. Our school belongs to our community, and when families choose to go elsewhere, it's a signal that we need to listen, reflect, and improve. I believe we can strengthen our school by focusing on what matters most: academics, supportive environments, and responsible use of taxpayer dollars. Improvement doesn't come from slogans and politics. It comes from consistency, collaboration, and trust. If elected, I will bring a calm, thoughtful approach to the board, listening to families and staff, preparing for decisions, and always asking how each choice affects students and long-term health of our district. I'd be honored to serve your community, or our community, sorry, and work together to ensure our local schools remain a place families feel confident choosing. Thank you, and thank you for doing this.
thank you both. Please remember to vote on March 10th here at Town Hall. And local elections affect us most, so please make sure your voice is heard. Thank you both for coming, and we'll see you next year.
Thanks again. Good luck.
Thanks for joining.
Recording stopped.